Hello and welcome to Let's Translate Anime Songs, episode 3, I believe? Maybe 4. This time we are looking at the Witch Hat Atelier opening, number 1, Kaze no Anthem. So in the series, I have my followers translate anime songs, and I offer three main different styles that they can translate it in. They can either do a translation that you would find online on like a blog, like a fan translation, or they could do a translation style in subtitle forms that would appear, in a subtitle episode of anime, or they can do a singable English cover. So an English translation of the song, rather an adaptation that is meant to be sung and have the proper like rhyme and meter and everything. I got submissions from two different people this time. One person did a subtitle translation and another one did a singable English cover. The purpose of this series is to compare and contrast the translations and to learn from them. At the end of this video, I will be announcing the next Let's Translate the song that we're going to be covering, including the due date. And while song translations are very difficult to do, I like to acknowledge that at the beginning of every single episode. I really encourage you, if you've been thinking about submitting a song translation and participating in this before, but haven't because you're worried that it's too hard or that you aren't at an advanced level enough, I encourage you, even if you're like beginner level Japanese, you can still, by doing a bad translation, you will still learn an awful lot, and we can also learn an awful lot. So don't let, like, the whole point of this is for all of us to learn something, not for me to gush over how wonderful a translation is or like tear a bad translation to shreds. The whole purpose is to learn. So if you've been on the fence, really do consider submitting a translation. I have room for up to 3 people to participate. Anyway, let's jump into it. So first, let's look at the title of this song, Kaze no Anthem. It's, pretty straightforward, right? Anthem of the Wind. Like, that's like basic Japanese 101. And Patron A, the subtitle translator, chose to translate it as Anthem of the Wind. Patron B's Singable English cover translated it as a wind-born anthem, and look how born is spelled. It's spelled with an E at the end. And this version of born, if you look at it, think of it as like airborne. It doesn't necessarily mean like born of the wind. It's like carried by the wind. So I really like that. It sounds a little more mystical. So the first line, Kaze no tsute ga hakonde kureru. Tsuki ni odoreba yoru ni somaru mado. You could link these two lines together, potentially, or you could think of them as independent thoughts. So tsute, you might usually see this as den if it's by itself. It's one of the kanji in densetsu, which is legend. On its own, it can mean legend, tradition, biography. It comes from the verb tsutaeru, to tell or to transmit or to convey or to pass something down. So there's a number of different ways you can think of this word, like traditions of the wind, tellings of the wind, lore of the wind. You can think of it many different ways. So carried by the lore of the wind, the traditions of the wind, myths of the wind. If dance in the moonlight, yoru ni somaru mado. So mado, if you look at the kanji, it's like literally sort of the way of magic, kind of like sado, like the way of tea, the tea ceremony, and like all the other little dos in Japanese that you have. But yeah, you could look at this as like sorcery or even dark arts, perhaps. Or you could just look at it as magic or the way of magic. Translator A, who is doing a subtitle translation, translated those first 2 lines as, I heard the myths of magic whispered in the wind, of a dance under the moon that drapes you in looms of nocturne. So to get the full appreciation of a singable adaptation, it's best to sing it. So, I heard the myths of magic whispered in the wind, of a dance under the moon that drapes you in looms of nocturne. Sort of like that. Notice, I always point this out in these breakdowns, how a singable adaptation, just inevitably, the lines will be longer than a basic translation. Because in general, the English words have fewer syllables than Japanese words. It takes fewer syllables to say something in English than it does in Japanese. So if you're doing a translation that's very syllable-based, like song lyrics, you have to fill it out by just using more words and maybe extrapolating a little more. So that's how that goes. These first 2 lines are rather poetic. Okay, the next 2 lines. 乾くほどに満たされないこの瞬間が欲しくて. Again, you could kind of combine these two lines into one complete thought. 乾くほどに満たされない. It means like no matter how thirsty you are, like your thirst can never be quenched, basically. Or a thirst that can never be quenched. There are no pronouns. この瞬間が欲しくて. I just desire this moment. So yeah, it's like a metaphor. I desire this moment like so strongly that in such a way that like it's like a thirst that can never be quenched. That is just how strongly I desire this moment. I feel like those two lines do go together as one complete thought. That's how I would think of them as. Translator A, did your thirst is never quite quenched. You so badly want this moment. Pretty much the same vibe as what I thought of just now, except pronouns were added, you. It is in second person. Translator B, with the Singable adaptation, I felt a new desire burning deep within, painting vivid scenes as I yearned. I felt a new desire burning deep within, painting vivid scenes as I yearned. Kind of like that. So notice, Translator B went with first person, I pronouns, and Translator A went with second person, you pronouns. And you'll notice this theme throughout the entirety of their translations. Translator A chose to pretty much phrase the whole song in second person. I'm directing it at you. Either I'm directing it at you, the listener of this song and the fan of this show, or I'm perhaps directing it at Coco, like the main character of the story. If you look at some of the lyrics, it does seem like it's either sung by Coco or about Coco. So that's how I would interpret it. But yeah, it's not entirely clear 100% in the original Japanese lyrics if this is like a person singing about themselves or about a person singing to another person, or if you actually listen to the singers, one of them has a masculine voice, the other singer has a feminine voice, and then sometimes they sing the chorus together. So perhaps it is actually two completely different people, and maybe they're singing about themselves, or maybe they're singing to Coco, or maybe they're singing to all of the apprentice witches in training, or maybe they're singing to us, the audience. It is a little unclear. Like, I overall get the vibe that a lot of this is a little bit more in first person. There is a kimi pronoun in the chorus, referencing directly you. So I feel like some of the other stuff flows more naturally to me. But again, I don't think it's necessarily wrong to assign a you pronoun or an I pronoun to the first lines of the verse, because Japanese doesn't always do pronouns. It's not always clear. All right, so on to the next lines. Now it's the female voice singing, the feminine voice singing. I don't want to assume their gender. まだわからない迷える子羊のよう。何者でもない特別ではないようで. Let's stop there just at those two lines. So still not understanding anything, like a lost little sheep or lamb, as if you or I, as if a person is nothing special. 特別ではない、何者ではない, not anybody special, not special, basically. Translator A went with, like a newborn lamb that's lost its way, it feels like you're a nobody, nothing special. And this is obviously referencing Coco. Like, she starts the story thinking that she's not special and that you have to be born a witch, you can't learn it, and she learns that that's not actually true. Translator B. I felt so very small, afraid to fall, a stranger to the world, and I long to be like you, alas I am but a normal girl. That's my best approximation of that. I learned this song this morning. And I didn't mention this at the beginning, but this song, well, it's a great song, for one thing. Well, let me just put that out there. But a lot of what makes this song great is the rhythmic intricacies of the lyrics. And also, you'll notice this especially in the chorus with the Japanese lyrics. The cadence of the way the words work is very unlike the way they're spoken in Japanese. You'll have like these very unexpected stressed syllables and then combined syllables, like the end of one word becomes the beginning of the next word, which is pretty cool. And Translator B in this adaptation actually played with the rhythm quite a bit and made a lot of the stressed words rhyme. I felt so very small, afraid to fall, a stranger to the world, and I long to be like you. Alas, I am but a normal girl. Girl rhymes with world. So yeah, really cool rhymes there. And very, very intuitive and easy to get that with the rhythm, assuming you know the song well. And I don't know the song very well, admittedly. Um, May I notice again with the I pronoun, the afraid to fall was just added basically. It's just it's an elaboration of you don't understand anything and you're like a lost little sheep. And that lost little lamb was actually, that metaphor was just gone from this adaptation. And I think part of it is just, I can't really find a way to rhyme the lamb. So I'm going to go with different metaphors for feeling lost and not really knowing what to do. I felt small. Like if you are, out of your element, you feel small. Afraid to fall. Also, like if you're new to something and everyone else around you is so much more advanced than you at witchcraft, you would be afraid to fall. Oh, and also literally afraid to fall if you're like casting a flying spell. A stranger to the world, like a little lost lamb. Similar metaphors here, and I think it's just to fit the rhyming scheme and the rhythm. I longed to be like you, again, was not in the original Japanese lyrics, but if you look at the story, it's definitely in there. Coco longs to be like the other witches. Alas, I am but a normal girl, and that's a big theme of the story. We're just expanding upon like the Japanese saying, I thought that I wasn't anything special. And translator A, like a newborn lamb that's lost its way. I really like that wording there. Yeah, simply translating Mayo Edo as lost, it can be a little lacking. Lost its way, I think, paints a better picture. Like a newborn lamb, you're like a super baby. It feels like you're a nobody, nothing special. And again, we're going with you pronouns for this translation. Either it's like these singers are singing the song to Coco, or they're singing it to us, the viewers who are living vicariously through Coco. The next line, Asu ga hoshikatta, tadoru beki sekai no yoake eto. Wanted tomorrow. I wanted tomorrow, you wanted tomorrow, who knows? Tadoru beki sekai. So the world that I belong to, the world that I should, the world that I ought to go to, the world that is meant for me, the world that I should be in. No yoake, so the dawn of the world I belong in, the world I want to be in. Eto, so I'm going towards the new dawn of this world that I would like to be in. And I wanted that tomorrow. I was lost like a little sheep and didn't think I was anything special as I headed for this world, this dawn of the new world that I belong in, that I so desperately wanted. And we're referencing like earlier, it's like I wanted this so badly that just like, a thirst that could never be quenched. And we're going there now. We're going to this world now. Translator A translated that as yearning for tomorrow. Yearning is such a great word for hoshi and hoshikatta. Such a good word. It's a very strong word for wanting something, for desiring something. It's like you want it so badly it makes you sick. It makes you cry. And of course, yearning is often used with romance, but like it doesn't have to be used that way. It could be used with other things. Head towards the dawn of your new reality. So the tadoru beki sekai would be your new reality in this interpretation. I kind of like that because as I was talking through tadoru beki sekai earlier, you may have noticed that I was kind of struggling and stumbling over like the smoothest way to express this. The world that ought to be the one that I arrive to, the world I would like to go to, it has a lot of different vibes to it. So to interpret it in a looser way of a new reality, it's your new reality because it's the dawn of this place that you're going towards. It's the tomorrow that you were yearning for, your new reality. Also looking at the story of Witch Hat Atelier, where I mean, this is the dawn of Coco's new reality. She's a normal person working on, in a clothing shop and making clothes and stuff. And then all of a sudden she learns, oh, wait, I actually can use magic. And oh, now I'm an apprentice learning witchcraft with other young witches. So it really works with the theme of the anime. It's a bit of a stretch. It's a bit of an interpretation of Tadorubeki Sekai, but it's so much smoother than the world that you ought to, or the world that I ought to go to. So I like that. Translator B. But I heard something calling, beckonings I could not ignore. They spoke to my core. Something like that. So if you listen, I heard something calling, beckonings I could not ignore. That's a bit of a rhyme, calling and not ignore. At least the vowel is the same. They spoke to my core, but the ignore and core rhyme very clearly. Good rhymes. But I heard something calling, beckonings I could not ignore. That's all just added. Beckonings I could not ignore. But it's an expansion of but I heard something calling. They spoke to my core. So if you're looking at just the whole vibe of this line, the singer wanted something and now they're going towards it, basically. That is the vibe of this entire line. If you're really just stripping it down to its core, its heart, its subtext, and you're just ignoring all the little pesky individual words and you're looking at it holistically. I wanted something dearly, I yearned for it, and now I'm going towards it. I think that they spoke to my core thing. Again, we're taking from the actual story of Witch Hat Atelier. That's something both translators did. I know that translator B really likes this series. I don't know about translator A, but I would hope and assume, if you're going to translate a theme song of an anime, that you would at least just kind of look at a summary of the show and kind of know what it's generally about. But I do feel like the whole spirit of this thing is well, I want this thing badly and now I'm heading towards it. And both translators did that. Yearning for tomorrow, head towards the dawn of your new reality. But I heard something calling, beckonings I could not ignore, they spoke to my core. It's just reworked quite a bit to a point where it's no longer really a translation of the Japanese, but I do feel still that it captures the original spirit of the lyrics and the show. All right, on to the chorus. So as I pointed out earlier, the chorus is sung by both the masculine and feminine singer together. And if you are kind of adding that to your interpretation of the song, okay, well, maybe the masculine singer is, I forget his name, the main mentor witch character with the one glasses that's dark and the other side of his glasses are not dark. Anyway, the main witch dude and Coco, I think the immediate assumption, if this is sung by two characters from the show, is that the guy is Quifrey and the girl is Coco. And maybe this is them singing together. But that's not necessarily the case. It could just be a random guy and a random girl singing to these characters or singing to you, a fan of these characters. Interpret that however you will. Koi ga hibiku, kimi to kimi no. So again, you probably want to put these two lines together because this hanging kimi to kimi no. And yeah, we've got pronouns finally, kimi and kimi. Kimi to kimi. It could be two different yous, but it could also be kimi, you, and kimi no, your. Itsuka wo tsunagu unmei no yona. So if you combine these two lines into one complete thought, we have this weird clause, kimi no itsuka wo tsunagu unmei. So your fate that connects you to your future, basically, is kind of what that means. Kimi to kimi no itsuka wo tsunagu unmei. But you don't have to think of it that way. You could think of it as two separate thoughts, two separate lines. Let's look at the translators. So translator A, your voice reverberates, one thought on its own, like the fate that connects you to your future self. So yeah, patron A had a similar interpretation that I did. Your voice reverberates. I don't know that it's your voice specifically. Koi ga hibiku. I interpret that more as just voices resound, like the fate that connects you to your future self. Moving forward a little bit, the The translator then goes on to translate the next line as voices overlap in a resonant anthem. So I do feel like because of that choice also, I think the first line is more voices in general, like the voices of all the witches of the world or something like that, or the voices of nature or the voices of magic. I don't know. That's my personal thought, but the Japanese isn't entirely that clear because Japanese doesn't care as much about pronouns. Okay, the singable version. And now I hear your voices resound, joys I have found. They entwine, they're a sign of fate's aligning. And now I hear your voices resound, joys I have found. So right, remember this translator is translating the whole thing more in a first person thing, I guess mostly from Coco's POV. So, and now I hear your voices resound. So it's your voices, so the, plural voices, which I do think it is plural voices myself as well. Koi ga hibiku. I guess it's partly the hibiku that's just kind of making me think that it's more than one voice. Like for voices to echo, you can totally have just one voice echoing, but I don't know. I feel like it's multiple voices. And now I hear your voices resound. Joys I have found is completely added. But again, looking at the story, Coco found joys in her new life. They entwine, they're a sign. Notice the rhyme there. Also, I hear your voices resound. Joys I have found. It's like voices resound, joys I have found. Those phrases like rhyme with each other. That's some really good rhyming there. They entwine, tsunagu. They're a sign of fate's aligning. I really like that too. Fate's aligning. Itsuka tsunagu unmei. That you could interpret that as fate's aligning. It's like the destiny that carries you to the future version of yourself that you're supposed to be. The fate's aligning. And you becoming the person you're supposed to be. So I like that interpretation. Kasanariau, kyomei no anthem, wazuka na inori idaku hibiyo. Kasanariau is like to layer on top of each other. I think we had that in the Dandadan song lyrics too. So kyomei no anthem is like a resonant anthem. And the kasanariau, I'm thinking of voices layering on top of each other in a resonant anthem. Wazuka na inori, like a faint prayer. Idaku hibiyo. So you're sort of this yo at the end. We're addressing the days where quiet, faint prayers were embraced. This is such a literal translation. Okay, on to translator A. Voices overlap into a resonant anthem. Yeah, that's basically my interpretation there. I like overlap for kasanariau. Voices overlap into a resonant anthem. A little prayer embracing each day. Yeah, I feel like we're embracing the quiet prayers. We're not necessarily embracing the days. Let's see patron B's interpretation. Of journeys enchanted, your vibrant anthem, recited like a charm since dark days of yore. Kind of like that. So enchanted and anthem is kind of a slant rhyme. Recited like a charm since dark days of yore, another kind of slant rhyme on those two emphasized words. I like how days of yore, hibiyo, they kind of have the similar cadence and almost similar like vowel structure. Days of yore, hibiyo. That's kind of cool. Okay, of journeys enchanted, that's completely added. But again, I think it goes with the vibe of the story. They go on journeys enchanted. Your vibrant anthem. Vibrant anthem is nice. It really is more like resonant, a very musical term there, but vibrant is nice as well. Your vibrant anthem. I think this your is a your plural related to the your voices. Recited like a charm since dark days of yore. I guess a charm is inori, prayer. That works. Prayer, inori, it is. So it is usually prayer. It can also be wish. And if a charm kind of works too in the context of this story because it's about witches. We're missing the wazukana. Again, I think it might be an issue of just trying to get the rhyme and the meter to work. But all of these words together, they're very poetic. And now I hear your voices resound, joys I have found, they entwine, they're a sign of fate's aligning, of journeys enchanted, your vibrant anthem, recited like a charm since dark days of yore. Yeah, it paints this picture of like the voices of the good witches have kind of carried us through times. and they give us light and hope. It's if you're looking at just sort of like the overall vibe holistically of these 4 lines and kind of ignoring all the little individual words, that's the kind of vibe you get, and that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from the Singable version here. Even though there's like a lot of the words are missing and a lot of new words are put in there, I think it still works with the overall vibe. Dare yori egaita kibo omou yume mo inochi no iro ga kagayaku mahou. So the hopes that were drawn more than anybody else's, and the dreams in our hearts, omou. So, oh god, omou is such a loaded word. With this kanji, omou is more like, it's often associated with like love or something that's dear to you, or even something you fantasize or dream of, rather than just I think about or I feel about, would be with the different omou kanji. But this omou kanji is more like that I yearn for, that I feel for, that I dream of. Well, it's even yume, omou yume, like the dreams that I fantasize of, the dreams near and dear to my heart. It's more that kind of vibe. The dreams on my mind you could also go with, but again, that would probably use the different omou in that case. Inochi no iro ga kagayaku mahou, so like the magic, the spell that makes the colors of life shine, kind of thing. Again, I'm trying to not use pronouns because this original is a little vague on if we're talking about you or me or all of it. I think the chorus is kind of talking about all of us or all of the witches or something. It's a little more of a all of us together sort of thing, I feel like, in the Japanese. Okay, so translator A. The hopes and dreams you never gave up on. Dare yori egaita kibo omou yume mo. So this egaita, in this particular context of Witch Hat, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the series, in this lore, you cast magic spells by drawing them, basically. And that was sort of the whole inspiration. Like, it was so funny when I started reading this manga, and I was like, oh, you literally just draw them with a pen. I was thinking to myself, oh, this is just basically a mangaka's love letter to manga, to drawing. And then I saw in the little free talk at the end, the mangaka was basically saying, yeah, this whole story was inspired by like a remark from somebody that like, oh, drawing manga and drawing is kind of like magic. It's kind of like casting spells. So this egaita in this context, in the context of this series, I feel like is more like casting a spell. So like the hopes and dreams that were bigger to me than to anybody else. Like they were bigger, they were more magical to me than anybody else sort of feel to it. And you even explicitly say like magic in the next line. So the hopes and dreams you never gave up on. I kind of like that phrasing for you never gave up on them, like, because they're just so incredibly important to you. Like you drew them in your mind more than anybody else. And that implies you never gave up on them because you're just so obsessed with them. You keep fantasizing about them and drawing them in your mind. Magic that glows with the color of life. I feel like kagayaku is usually more like shine, but I like glow because it gives a more magical vibe. So I do like that choice. Translator B's Singable version. From hopes and dreams so strong and profound, colors abound, mystical, magical, lighting up your lives all around. I think that was about right. This translator did include a like audio file singing through it so that I could have an example of like the actual cadence of it, like trying to duplicate it here. Again, I don't know this song super well. I only learned it this morning. But anyway, you could hear like all the really cool rhythmic things that were going on there with the rhyming also. From hopes and dreams so strong and profound, colors abound. Profound, abound, mystical, magical. Ah, those two words sound so cool next to each other. Mystical, magical, lighting up your lives all around. So from hopes and dreams so strong and profound, this colors abound comes from the inochi no iro. Mystical and magical were not in the original Japanese. Lighting up your lives all around. That's the inochi no iro ga kagayaku. So this inochi no iro ga kagayaku was split into two thoughts. The colors abound in the first line, and then the lighting up your lives all around in the second line. And you can totally do things like that. Again, if you're looking at this more holistically, this whole thought, the hopes and dreams that were stronger to you than to anybody else are like magic spells that are coloring, that are lighting up the colors of your life and like making them shine is sort of the whole vibe of this thing. I really like mystical, magical. It's just so satisfying to say those two words, even though they weren't really. I mean, okay, maho, magical, that does work. That is a little bit in the original Japanese. But yeah, that's very satisfying to sing. その力がなくたって、もう, oh, again, this is the feminine voice singing alone again, by the way. So, その力がなくたって、もう迷うことはないさ. And like this is definitely one complete thought instead of two separate lines. It's like, even if I or you do not have that power, the power that I've basically just described, this like magic that can make the colors of life shine and all the hopes and dreams and everything, even if you or I or whatever don't have that power, もう迷うことはないさ. We've mentioned 迷う earlier in here, like 迷う子羊, right? 迷える子羊のよう. And the feminine voice was singing that line too, which again leads me to believe that any line that's sung by the feminine voice is Coco, or just sung from Coco's POV, or sung to Coco. So we're mentioning this feeling of being lost that was mentioned earlier. It's like, well, I'm not going to feel lost anymore. もう迷うことはないさ. Even if I don't have that power, is basically what this means. Translator A, even without such power, you'll never lose your way again, because remember, translator A is phrasing that is addressing this entire song to you. You could be Coco, you could be the listener of this song. I like you'll never lose your way again. The mo in there implies the again. Like, if you just say mayo koto wa nai, it means you won't be lost. But mo mayo koto wa nai is like, it implies, well, you used to be lost, but now you will never be lost again. So you'll never lose your way again is a really good way of translating that. And translator A translated mayoeru as lost its way earlier. So to keep that phrasing as lose your way again, that's a very smart thing to do, because that's the same reference from earlier. So to translate that the same way is important, I think. And though I know that's not what I'm made for, I'm not lost anymore. So that line actually is sung by both of them. I'm remembering now as I'm listening to the Japanese version again. Okay, so feminine voice, and though I know that's not what I'm made for, I'm not lost anymore. This actually sort of contradicts the theme of the story in a way. At the very beginning of the story, yes, Coco thinks she's not made for magic, because that's the lie that was spread throughout the world to prevent magic from falling into the wrong hands. I mean, I guess Coco still is lacking a bit of confidence at the beginning of the story, so it's fine. And the rhyming is good. And though I know that's not what I'm made for, I'm not lost anymore. I'm not lost anymore. So how was the mayoeru translated earlier? Okay, so yeah, this is an area where, like, I do think it is somewhat relevant that the mayoeru is mentioned earlier, and then it's at the very end of the song, I'm not mayo anymore. I think it's kind of important to, it would have been helpful to have mentioned being lost earlier, with the lines with all the other metaphors. I felt so very small, afraid to fall, a stranger to the world. Maybe lost in the world, or lost alone in the world. Just so that the word lost appears earlier, and then when later she says, I'm not lost anymore, it's referencing what was said earlier. That's kind of nitpicky, but there's definitely room to incorporate lost, the word lost earlier in the lyrics, just so that you'd have that callback, that repeat of lost. Now we're on to the very last line of the song. 不思議な日々よ. So again, this yo at the end, that it came up a little earlier in the lyrics. 日々よ, actually, 抱く日々よ. 不思議な日々よ. So わずかな祈り抱く日々よ. So these days where we embrace quiet little prayers. And now these days of wonder. So fushigi, that's another really fun word to translate. So fushigi, it's kind of like wonders of the world. So it's wonders, mysteries, but it's usually like really cool mysteries. So I personally feel like wonders is the most universal translation for Fushigina, wondrous. Sort of like things that make you wonder, but that are also a bit awe-inspiring and cool. But mysterious also. So we're kind of like talking to, or we're saying, oh, these days of wonder. We're sort of dedicating this line, this moment, this song to the days of wonder. Or you could also interpret it as Yo is just being emphatic, as in, wow, these days are just so full of wonder. So there are ways of translating that so it's a little more ambiguous, what you might mean by that. I would just say, oh, what wondrous days. And that kind of covers your bases both ways, is like, oh joy, what wondrous days. Like I sing this tribute to you, oh wondrous days. And also, wow, these days are so wondrous. I think that covers your bases both ways. All right, translator A, such marvelous days. Yep, that covers both bases as well. I like that. And then the sung version, these days of magic and lore. So the lore rhymes with anymore and made for. It's really cool how they rhymed the final line with the last two. I don't think that was quite as necessary just because this line kind of stands on its own. But I do lay out these days of magic and lore. So magic and lore instead of shigina, wondrous. Yeah, magic actually is also a good synonym, I think, for fushigina or fushigi. Magical things, mysterious things, wondrous things. And of course, you know, it goes with the story. Okay, so thank you to both translators who participated in this. Let me reiterate again that this is very hard, and both translators did a very good job translating this. Again, the purpose of this is to learn, not to like correct other people's translations. I'm not the supreme authority on song translation. I am a professional translator of many, and I'm sure other professional translators would have interpreted a lot of these things differently from me and differently from both of these other translators. So that's the whole point of this series, is to learn. And on that note, the next song we're going to be doing in this series, this is a song I've been requested a couple times over the past several years on this channel to look at. So we're going to look at, again, from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Very popular anime song. I really love the song too, personally. So yeah, we're going to be looking at again. To submit a song, go to my Ko-fi page. There are instructions in the video description. And you have until October 1st to submit your translation. So if you are watching this video like very close to October 1st or after October 1st, sorry, that song is done, but there might be another song going on, so you can still check my Ko-fi for details. And bye!